What's up, witches? I'm back at long last with another Pagan Bookworm review for you. It's been a very hectic last couple of months, so similar to what I did for the last video, where I kind of had to group March and April together. I'm going to do one video for the books that I have been reading for May and through June. Where the hell did June go? I swear it was just Memorial Day weekend and now it's almost July, and now tomorrow's July. Like, what happened? So I haven't had as much time to just sit down and read as I would like lately, and to be honest, when I have had a little bit of free time here and there to read, it's been a little bit more difficult lately for me to feel like sitting down and diving into a more heavy, dense, in-depth study type book, because, I mean, I know they don't call this the homework religion for nothing, but, you know, there are just some days when my brain does not have the capacity, the mental capacity to absorb any more information. There's some days that after work you just want to come sit down in front of the TV and veg out, or if I do read, I might just be reading like a fiction book for fun. So I have two books to discuss and review in this video, and one is Norse paganism related, and the other is not paganism related at all, but I would definitely say it is shadow work related. So let's get into it. The first book that I spent the majority of May and part of June reading and trying to get through was The Norse Shaman by Evelyn C. Rysdyk? I'm not sure, but The North Shaman is definitely one that has been at the top of my reading list since coming to the path of Norse paganism, because it's very in-depth in regards to Seder work and trance work and the shamanic side of Norse practice. So definitely very dense. That's why it took me over a month to get through it. I started reading this in May, and it's taken me up until now to really finish it. But because it is just such a very dense, informational, heavy book, that I really wanted to make sure I was taking the time to really give it my all and my full attention and absorb what I could. I have my little sticky tabs and highlights all over it as usual. I don't know if it's a holdover from being an English major and always having to like pour through so many research books when writing papers and whatnot, but this is just how I read and absorb information. I have to underline, highlight things. I don't know, it just makes me feel like I'm retaining the things that I want to better by going back and highlighting them, and it also just helps me go back and reference those particular things for my own knowledge, and in case there was ever anything I wanted to go back and reference, be it in regards to a video, a ritual, or an offering. I will usually just try to make note of the things that I want to go back and study more in depth or apply to my practice, because the nice thing about this book is it starts off just kind of going into the history of Norse shamanism, especially as it relates to the Sami practices. And one thing that I really appreciated about this book, being a Freya follower and someone who works primarily with Freya as my patroness, as I prefer to call her, instead of matron. That's just my personal preference. But it talks a lot about the concept of Freya. It talks a lot about the concept of Freya as the first shaman, the first Rolva, which is the word for a Norse seeress or oracle or practitioner of magic. And as we know, Freya is actually the one who taught Odin everything he knows about Seder magic and those types of magical practices. So I definitely appreciated that kind of insight. It talks a lot about shamanism and Seder as it relates to the Norns and concept of fate, and using magic to try to interpret and read the web of word and interpret it to give prophecies to people. But for the thing that I liked the most, I think, about this book is that at the end of every chapter, it not only breaks it down into all of these different larger concepts within Norse shamanism, but they also have very detailed guides on how to perform certain meditation rituals for things like finding your filga or spirit animal, journeying to the spirit worlds to meet other spirit guides or work with deities and other spirit helpers. And it gives you kind of a outline or guidebook for how to undertake those different inner journeys. And then for someone who is definitely interested in getting more into practicing rituals and offerings and participating in those, and in some cases maybe even leading them, and working with Freya, wanting to explore Seder magic in depth. It also has step-by-step guides for how to make the tools of the trade for practicing shamanism and Seder, such as the Seder staff, a shamanic hood that you can wear to cover your eyes and get you into that trance mind state. It really has so much helpful information, not just in terms of the historical, educational, scholarly side, but also in terms of modern day practical application. So if you're interested in Norse paganism, Norse mythology, Norse cosmology, and or Seder magic, getting into exploring the concepts of that and how to get into it, I definitely highly recommend this book. The second book that I am still in the process of finishing, but almost done with it, so I wanted to include it in this video. Thor, stop chewing on that! Even negative attention is still attention if you're a cat. This book, as I said, is more directly related to shadow work as far as I'm concerned, but I wanted to pick it up because I knew that it was going to be very helpful for me personally with where I'm at in my own shadow work and healing work, and that is The Mastery of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. And actually, I found this book/author through Instagram. I just came across their posts called their account is called The Mastery of Self. And I just started seeing their posts come up in my Instagram feed a lot with just motivational type quotes and inspirational sayings and things like that. And like, to be real, you guys, I'm normally like not a fan of like self-help books or like positive affirmations and all that kind of stuff. It just, like, don't get me wrong, I'm an optimistic, positive, and I try to be an outgoing person, but I don't know, that stuff, like, when you're really in the thick of it, and in the depths of the shadow work, and, like, depression and all that stuff, those, like, positive affirmations isn't always what you need or want to hear just then exactly, but I really found that their words and what they were saying through this account was really speaking to me and actually being positive and uplifting and helping me to kind of change my perspective and my mindset about different things. So I wanted to pick up this book as part of my shadow work. And it really has been very helpful because they kind of jokingly say that shadow work is therapy for people who can't afford therapy, which, don't get me wrong, like, if you're really going through some shit, like, you should seek actual therapy. But for me, I'm in my 30s. I've already been done doing a lot of shadow work up until this point in my 20s, and even now, just in the last year or so, and especially just in the last 5 or 6 months since becoming Norse Pagan. So I thought that this would be really helpful for me to just kind of get myself the rest of the way there. And it really has been, because it talks about the mastery of self in terms of getting rid of all that negative programming and social conditioning that is put upon us as we're growing up. I mean, even the people that are near and dear to us and that love us the most, they can still inflict judgment, shame, guilt, punishment, things like that on us because they just want us to adhere to social norms. They want us to do what they want and behave the way that they think we should behave. And so we're all socially conditioned as we're growing up to accept and reject different behaviors. So it really talks a lot about the concepts of conditional love versus unconditional love. De-domesticating yourself is kind of the terms that they put it in. I think that's the term that they use for it, is domestication, is just the social conditioning that we grow up with, whether it be good, bad, and different. And as a result, the various forms of attachment that we form with people, places, things as a result, and how to kind of detach yourself from any unhealthy attachments that you might be having, and recognizing the ways in which those things can still trigger us. And that's been really useful for me because I think we all have those things that happen to us in our childhood or even in adulthood that were hurtful or damaging and that we still carry with us deep down, whether we even are aware of it or not. There are still things that, because of what we went through, if you undergo something similar in the current day, it will kind of trigger you in terms of just putting you right back into that moment in the past, and suddenly you're not thinking with your logical current brain anymore. You're thinking with, in my case, it'll be like, I'm right back there, feeling like 12-year-old Amy being yelled at by their parents again because of something someone is saying to me right now, So as someone who I think has just always been extremely empathetic growing up, extremely concerned about other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions, and well-being, it's been very helpful for me in terms of getting back in touch with myself, my own wants, needs, and emotions, and how to just better examine and regulate those, because I can be a super over emotional person at times. I am aware of and acknowledge this, and so it's just something that I'm constantly trying to work on with myself. And some days are better than others. We're all just gonna have those days where shit hits the fan and you can't keep things under control. But I would definitely highly recommend this book to anyone who is interested in doing shadow work and just self-improvement, because I think it really does a good job of explaining those concepts in an easy to understand way, and in a way that doesn't come off as cheesy or overly sappy or overly positive, if that makes sense. Because one thing that I've learned about myself is that I've just always tried to be very laid back, go with the flow of inner vibes and show unconditional love to anyone and everyone I meet, because I think at the end of the day, that's just what we all want, is to be shown that unconditional love that maybe we haven't been receiving in our lives. And so it definitely touches a lot on those concepts of just learning to let go of attachment, let go of judgment, and focus on honing and bettering your authentic self and finding who that is. And that is definitely a lifelong journey. I don't think it's something that you ever can say that you complete and I've done all my shadow work, I'm a perfect good person now. It's a lifelong journey, and it's something that I think you should never stop working at and striving for, and especially as it relates to Norse paganism and this pantheon of gods and goddesses. I think that is definitely something that they really want from us, and all they really want from us is just to be the best version of ourselves. So the Mastery of Self has definitely been a very helpful book for me. I'm looking forward to completing it. I'm a little over halfway done right now, but I just really wanted to give it a shout out, as it's another book that I am currently in the process of reading and finishing for the month of June. That's all I really have to talk about for this video. If you're into Norse paganism, goddess worship, satyr magic, and all that good stuff, definitely highly recommend you check out the Norse Shaman. And this one, I wouldn't say it's required reading for pagans by any means, but it's still helpful, very helpful for me, and so I wanted to give you my thoughts on it and just let you know that this is what I have been reading over the last 2 months. So I hope I kept this relatively short, sweet, and to the point, because I have some more overtime to go work, yay me, but I just wanted to sit down really quick and film this quick book review video for you, so hopefully I will get that edited and put up sometime soon. And until the next one, stay classy, pagans.